Listen, there's a pattern in the Gospel of Mark that most people read right past. Every time Jesus does something significant, a healing, a confrontation, a miracle, Mark tells you where he went afterward. Not what he said, not who he talked to, where he went. He went to a mountain, a garden, the other side of a lake, a desert place, the hills alone. The Greek phrase Mark keeps using is kat idian, privately, apart, just you. And here's what I want you to sit with before we go anywhere else. Jesus, the Son of God, who had every spiritual resource available to him, who himself was the Word made flesh, still kept going away. Not because he was empty, because this is what he was built for. And if the Son needed it, what does that say about us? We talk a lot about spiritual disciplines, reading plans, prayer routines, accountability groups, Bible apps, sermon podcasts like this one. And none of that is wrong. But here's the question I want to put on the table today, and I want you to hold it for the whole episode. What are you protecting by never being alone with God? Because for most of us, if we're being honest, it's not busyness that keeps us from the secret place. It's not a schedule conflict or lack of information about how to pray. It's something more uncomfortable than that. Noise is a decision. We reach for the phone before our eyes fully open. We put the podcast on in the car. We fill every threshold with input. The quiet, the actual quiet, comes maybe once a week, and even then we don't always know what to do with it. I'm not diagnosing a laziness problem here. I'm diagnosing a fear problem. Because the secret place is where the real conversation happens, and real conversations require you to stop performing. Let me take you into the text. Mark 4, verse 34. Jesus has just finished a teaching to the crowds in parables: the sower, the soils, the lamp under a basket, the mustard seed. And then Mark says this: without a parable, he did not speak to them. But when he was alone with his own disciples, kat idian, he explained everything. Did you catch that? He explained everything to those who stayed. This is not a minor detail. This is the architecture of the secret place. The crowds get the parable, the surface form, the story, the thing that makes people nod and go home. But the ones who stay, who come apart, who make space, they get the explanation. The mysteries are not withheld from the public, they're reserved for those who come privately. This is not elitism, that is intimacy. There's a difference. An elite says only certain people deserve to know, but intimacy says the knowing is available to everyone who draws near. Jesus never stopped anyone from coming apart with him. He kept going to the mountain, he kept making room. The question was never whether he would explain it. The question was always who would come. Now let's go to the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 6, verse 6. Jesus says, "But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you." The Greek word for room is temeion, a private chamber, a storeroom, an inner room. In a first century Jewish household, this was the room with no window, the one that locked, the one the household turned inward to. This is not a building requirement. He's not saying you need a home office with a door that deadbolts. He's describing a posture. Go somewhere that has nothing to do with being seen. That's the whole instruction. Not what to say, not how long to stay, not which posture to hold your body in. Just go somewhere that has nothing to do with performing for an audience. Because here's what Jesus was confronting in Matthew 6. He opens this section by saying, "Be careful not to do your righteousness in front of people, to be seen by them." The religious practice of his day had become a public performance. Prayers announced in the streets, fasting marked with gloomy faces, charity given to the sound of trumpets. The crowd was the point. And he said, that is its own reward. You wanted to be seen. You were seen. Transaction complete. Nothing eternal was produced. But when you go into the room, close the door, when there's no audience, no metric, no one to notice, and you pray anyway, that is the transaction that heaven responds to. Your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Not your feed, not your tribe, not your elder board, your Father. Look at Mark 1, verse 35. This is the morning after what scholars call the Day of Miracles in Capernaum. Jesus had just healed Peter's mother in law. Then at sunset, the whole city gathered at the door. He healed many, cast out demons, worked until the crowd was finally spent. And then Mark says, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place, called idian, where he prayed. This is not the Sabbath. This is not a scheduled retreat. The disciples went looking for him, and when they found him, they said, everyone's been looking for you. The crowds were ready. The momentum was there. The open door was right in front of him. And he had already been alone with the Father for hours. The secret place was not what Jesus did when the work slowed down. The secret place was what he did before the work began. This is the rhythm he kept again and again throughout the Gospels. Luke 5, verse 16. But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. The Greek word here is hypochorio, to recede, withdraw, to slip away, often, habitually, as a pattern. The greatest ministry in human history was sustained by a hidden practice that no one could see. I want to stop here and be clear about something, because this is a wide table episode, and that matters. The secret place isn't the location, it's a posture. Jesus went to a mountain, a garden, a boat on a lake, a desert place. Whatever withdrawal looks like in your life, that's the secret place. Maybe it's 4 a.m. in a dark office in Fargo. Maybe it's a parking lot on your lunch break with the heat running and the radio off. Maybe it's a walk. Maybe it's the 10 minutes in your car before you go into the house after work, just sitting, not reaching for the phone, and not putting anything on. Maybe right now you can't access stillness at all, and the best you can do is one honest sentence before you fall asleep. That still counts. The posture is this: stop performing and start listening. Not how long, not where, not in what order, not which translation, or whether it's typed or handwritten or whispered or silent. Just come apart, shut out the audience. Let the Father see you when you have nothing to perform. The secret place is wherever that happens for you. The non negotiable is that it happens. Now, here's where it gets interesting. And this is the thread I want you to carry through the rest of this episode. In Mark 4, verse 34, Jesus explained everything privately to the disciples. Everything. Not just the simple things, the things that even the disciples had struggled to grasp in public. The secret place is where understanding happens. We come to public teaching and we receive information. We come to a podcast, even this one, and we encounter ideas that may shape us. But there's a category of knowing that cannot be received secondhand. It has to be first person. This is the providence paradox. The things God is doing in your life, the patterns, the connections, the way He has been building something through seasons that looked like silence, those things can only be seen from the inside. Nobody else can read your life. Nobody else has your trail. Nobody else can look back at the last 6 months and see what the Spirit was doing because they weren't there for all of it, but you were. And when you come apart, when you take the time to sit in private with your Father and say, show me what I've been living through, that's when the explanation comes. Not always immediate, not always as articulate insight. Sometimes it's just a weight that lifts. Sometimes it's one verse that lands on you differently at 2 a.m. than it did the first time you read it. But it comes. It comes to those who make room for it. The mysteries are not withheld, they are reserved for those who stay. Let me be honest with you about why most of us don't do this. It's not information. You know about the secret place. You've probably heard sermons about it. You've likely had seasons of your life where you did this well, and you know what it felt like when it was working. The obstacle is not ignorance, the obstacle is what shows up in the quiet. When the noise stops, the honest condition of your inner life has nowhere to hide. The anxiety is there, the unsolved anger, the grief that keeps getting deferred, the prayer that hasn't been answered yet, the question you're not sure you want God to answer, the thing you've been building that you suspect might not be what He asked for. In the noise, those things are manageable. You stay ahead of them. You fill the space before they can rise. But in the secret place, with the door closed and no audience, there's nowhere left to perform. And that's exactly the point. Jesus said your Father sees in secret. That means in the secret place, you can't curate what He sees. You can't lead with your best version. You can't start with the theological language and hope it impresses. He sees in secret, which means He sees everything. And here's the gospel of the secret place. He already knows, and He's not afraid of any of it. The anxiety doesn't surprise Him. The unresolved grief doesn't make Him pull back. The question you're afraid to ask, He's already holding the answer. You don't go to the secret place to impress Him. You go to let Him reach you. And that requires stopping, closing the door, and letting the quiet be honest. Here's what I want to leave you with. Jesus kept the secret place as the non negotiable center of His ministry rhythm, not as the overflow of a particularly spiritual season, as the foundation of every season. Before the crowds, after the crowds, in the middle of the momentum, in the silence when no one was looking for Him, kat idian, apart, privately. The question isn't whether you believe this matters. You already know it does. The question is, what in your life has been taking the slot that belongs to the secret place? Not to condemn you, to locate you. Because the Father is in the secret place, already there, already seeing, already ready to explain everything to whoever comes apart with Him. The crowd gets the parable. The disciples who stay get the explanation. Which room are you in? Next time, we're going to look at the difference between confessing your sins and confessing your hope. The church has trained us primarily in one of those. The new covenant actually trains priests in the other. That's Confessing Hope, Season 2, Episode 5 of the Upside Down Kingdom. He who has ears to hear, let him hear.